Hello, everyone. We're just going to invite our guest. So, welcome everybody once again to our fifth edition of Botox. We have a very special guest today. Not only somebody who is a friend of ours, but also somebody that I love talking to. Today, we're talking to Linda Levy, the president of the Fragrance Foundation. She is the queen of fragrance. Linda is not only a beauty industry veteran, but she's also a champion for change. And for those of you who don't know what the Fragrance Foundation is, it's the official organization for the fragrance industry. TFF is also in charge of the annual annual fragrance awards, which is like the Oscars of the fragrance industry. And Linda, how are you? We just recorded earlier.
No, we didn't. We had a great day here in New York. Anyway, Bernardo, every time I see you, I'm happy. I'm so happy to join, and I'm honored that you wanted me to be on with you to discuss the anniversary.
Of course. And let's tell our viewers a little bit of how we met.
Okay.
I think let's start by that.
That's a funsy thing. One day I was invited to a brunch downtown in New York City. It was a couple of years ago. A year and maybe a few months ago. And I thought I was meeting this friend of mine for brunch, and I had not seen him since before the pandemic. So I check in at the maitre d' for a beautiful little brunch on a sunny day. And they said, oh, no. And I asked for him and I couldn't find the table. And they said, oh, no, you're at this other table. So long story short, I was guided over to a table with these two, excuse me, but I'm going to embarrass you a little, say, gorgeous guys, one of which was Bernardo and his husband, Giancarlo. And what I'm thrilled to say is that day, knowing absolutely nothing about this brand, and it was just before the official launch in this lovely brunch, not a lot of liquor, I was totally straight. And I got to meet the House of Beau with those who created it a moment before it launched to the real world. And it was a thrill, and I've been on the journey ever since.
And I think for us, it was, we were a little nervous because we didn't know if you were going to be somebody who was very like uptight or anything. And I think it took maybe like a minute, a minute where like the ice was broken. And I think I was just kind of at the culmination of my creation of the first fragrances that we did, and I had all like these ideas. My dad had passed away, and I had all these, I don't know, all these inspirations. But I think that it was one of those things that helped to kind of break the ice, and ever since I think we just hit it up really well.
Bonded. But I do think, Bernardo, we haven't really talked about this. Forget like what my position is, just to share something that you've created with someone you absolutely do not know, that you think has a level of expertise, is a very intimidating thing. And what everyone knows about me, and I think you've come to know, is I call myself naked honest. I am very honest about what I think. And I've been in a lot of different roles in this industry. I was a retailer, I was on brands, I've done a lot of different things, but I'm always extremely honest about my experience. I also try to separate what my personal taste is from what is otherwise. Like there might be a category I don't like, but quite frankly, it was like love at first spray, because another thing you might not know, prior to us meeting, people would periodically ask me, what is your first memory of scent? And I would often refer to going to the ocean on Long Island and going to the beach club. And when we'd come back to the cabana and I was a little girl, yes, I was at one time, my mother would sprinkle on Jean Naté. So I have fallen in love with your fragrances because it really brought an extreme memory to me that is based on deep-hearted love.
Yeah, and I think you're referring to Agua de Santos. That's really what we did with Rodrigo. I think he really just almost like bottled up this memory of your childhood into this bottle because it's happened a few times. Like people smell Agua de Santos and they're like, wow, this reminds me of something from my childhood. And of course,
Yeah. But
that's
still, it was very brave of you to meet a stranger and to share like what you put your heart and soul into. And what was interesting to me is the person who introduced us, I had no idea what he was doing or who you were. So it was truly meet like a blind date. And since that blind date, you know, we've forged ahead together. But the fragrances are magnificent, and congratulations on 1 full year of steady growth.
thank you so much, Linda. We have a few like just a few questions for you.
Sure.
Um, why don't you explain to us what the Fragrance Foundation is for those of our viewers who don't know what it is and how it works?
Thank you for asking. The Fragrance Foundation was actually was born probably about 70 few years ago. A woman named Annette Green, who is 98 years old and lives in Manhattan, who I'm going to see next week, really was the founder and really for many decades brought it forward and did a magnificent job. It's a not-for-profit company, organization. It's specific to the United States of America. All the money that we raise through membership or the big awards event is used to spend. The only time the board or the chair is not happy is if I haven't spent everything to do everything because I have a million ideas. So we're not looking here to make money. We have 100 plus member companies. If your company is a member, everyone in the company is a member. So if anyone's listening in and they know their company is welcome, you now found out you're a member. I would say we've always been very focused, and we rewrote the mission when I first came. I refer to the past as sort of the Encyclopedia Britannica, where you go to get information about fragrance. But in this day and age, we really reinvented it when I joined 5 years ago. And our mission is to inspire the world to discover the passion and artistry of fragrance. Our
Which
end result is really to get to the consumer, but we believe in education, nurturing talent, and our number one priority, which really was born a year ago, and we will always make our number one priority, is diversity. Yeah, hashtag Fragrance Forward TFF, about
my next.
diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So tell us a little bit of what hashtag Fragrance Forward TFF means, the mission, and why it's so important for somebody with a role like you in a position like you to promote something that is so important.
Well, I'll explain it this way. I learned a lot about the consumer in prior roles, and I'm a woman who has traveled around the world, but I was not happy, and I knew a lot of people weren't happy, the fact that the fragrance industry was truly sort of stereotyped as a Caucasian male and possibly from France. And the greatest thing about the USA is our diversity. We have every color, every religion, LGBTQIA plus, and disabilities. And I thought it was really important to make sure that our industry reflected the population and, quite frankly, our consumer. The Hispanic and Black population are the biggest consumers of fragrance. And with all due respect to the lovely people who created a beautiful world of fragrance prior to the last few years, it really didn't embrace and celebrate everyone in a way. So we are reaching out to the world, and you've been a great partner of ours to support this initiative.
Well, I mean, I think I've told you this before. I think what you're doing is so amazing and so impactful when it comes from somebody in your position. People listen to you, and the fact that you're kind of setting the tone, and in a way, it's almost like holding accountable whoever's not really on board with this, which is so important, right?
But I want to tell you, Bernardo, I felt this way, but I didn't know even a year ago. I'm saying this on a very emotional level, what I know today. I didn't really understand everything that I've begun to learn. Chris Collins, I met when I was first in this position, and he spoke to me over the summer of 2020, which was one of the most difficult. And I had brought on Sharnae Jackson, who I knew from Macy's, to do events and a lot of things. And the three of us had a conversation about this. And what I also realized, Chris wasn't even comfortable talking to me about it before Sharnae joined, the team. And I realized like a lot of things that I didn't know. And one of the biggest things was, unless people see people that look like them in the industry, they do not believe that, excuse me for saying, we're serious and mean business about this. And also, it's a lot about informing people and embracing. And Chris also taught me so much, and I was a retailer, and retailers can create, could put you into bankruptcy at House of Bow if you don't have the opportunity to be supported and nurtured and celebrated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we are all learning new things every day. The fact that you caught onto it, if it's 5 years ago or 4 years ago, but what you're doing right now is just it's amazing. So,
but Bernardo, I'm not saying this to be humble. I'm leading and I'm making it part of everything we do, but nothing can be done alone. And I needed a full education, quite frankly, because people who are not familiar with this could easily offend or not be supportive in the right way. Sharnae has been so active in DEI for so long and in education. We also brought on someone who could advise us strategically. And we realized we can't just wait here and let everyone show up and I'll tell them what we believe in. We had to get out there. So getting out there is interesting. The media was interested in talking to me about trends or the awards. But now the media is much more interested if I even call them up, because I want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's so much more meaningful than winning the Oscar, if I may say.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Well, one of the other things that I think we can talk about is, October marks the first year for House of Bow. It's like our anniversary month, and as a team, we really want to thank all of the TFF team for being so supportive, of course, from the beginning. And it feels like so many things have happened to us in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy, right? Like, everything that's happened, and it's almost been like a year of many firsts, right? It was from all the unbelievable press that we got, all the mentions that we got, to our first retail partnerships in Bergdorf and Neiman. And I think a personal favorite of mine was the first time that I smelled a perfume, a House of Bow perfume on somebody, like random on the street. That was just like a very special moment for me.
Yeah.
But I think something that I will never, ever, ever forget.
What?
Is the Fragrance Foundation Awards.
Okay, let's talk about that, Bernardo. I also want to say, for you who launched a year ago, many people wanted to be involved in the Fragrance Foundation, and a lot of them were new brands. Although 2020 and what's been the past few years was such a difficult struggle with so much death, disease, and I know it affected you personally, it was actually created a level playing field in a certain way for new brands to message and communicate with consumers directly. And I think what you've done, and part of your success, like two things you've just mentioned, were absolutely essential to your success. Well, three. One is you've created fragrances that are extremely transportive, and people who are staying home and locked in wanted to think of another time, like I said about my mother in the cabana. I think the other thing is the storytelling of everything that you do in social media really allows people to get to know the brand. And I might even have five things, not one or two, but number one is you had a magnificent perfumer who understood your creativity, and Rodrigo Flores Rue, who's also from Mexico. And let's say it, you're the first fragrance from Mexico in the United States to hit such a high, and possibly the only one that I know of. You had a very good combination of factors. The other thing is you dream and you try to make your dreams come true. So I'm a big believer in that. And with that, you've gotten a lot of people, such as myself and the whole team here, involved in your dream. So I believe you have to dream about it, create something fabulous, and the product has to be magnificent. And I'm just going to lean down. I think that what it smells like, what it looks like, what it feels like is magnificent. You didn't invite me in to do a commercial, but everything counts. And you really paid attention. And if anyone gets any of these things wrong, try again. Because if you have the passion like Bernardo has, nothing will stop you from being successful.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, I think that I created something, and we've talked about this before, from the heart. It was, in a way, my way to deal with my grieving process, but it really turned this into something with passion from the heart. It gave me purpose in life. It really did. It just put me on a path that I had never had for 37 years of my life. I was working in real estate, which was not like I was truly passionate about that, and I had never really experienced what it was to live with purpose and intention. So
but even if you think of real estate as your first career more boring, I think the commonality is that you love relating to people. And I would think that the homes that you were selling them, or whatever you were doing, it had some creative piece to it. But when you really find what it is, that's why people say, like, ask me all the time, like, how do you sleep or whatever? I'm like constantly thinking about this, like you. I'm always dreaming of what more we could do. One other thing I really want to talk about is the fact, Bernardo, that you're a gay man in the Hispanic community. And not to be anything but 100% transparent, as I always am, there's a lot of gay creative people in fashion, in fragrance, whatever. But no one was celebrating them enough, in my opinion, in certain ways. Like, everyone should be in this together. And I think celebration is the difference. Acceptance, I'm sure, was there to some degree, but celebration is a different feeling, and wanting to contribute to someone's success is really important. And here we are today.
That's true. That's true. Well, then one of the other things I think that I wanted to ask you was, in your opinion, what makes a fragrance house or a fragrance brand? What makes a fragrance brand successful? Like, we kind of touched a little bit.
We touched a few. Well, number one is the fragrance itself, the juice. If the fragrance isn't good, no matter what else happens, it's not going to get there. Second of all, the packaging is really important. That also brings in the theme, which is important and will be a big theme at the Fragrance Foundation going forward, is sustainability. We don't want to rob the earth of all its ingredients. We don't want things to be, like thrown out glass. So we still have a lot of work to do. The other thing is, what is the story? I meet a lot of people who create brands, and I don't think little brands where you started as well are competition. I think everyone has a unique story. So how you go about it logically. And the other thing which you should talk about is, when you create a brand the way you do so passionately, it takes over your life 24/7, and you have to, like, calm yourself down, because between the amount of work and the supply chain challenges, you need to be able to find a way to be at peace with what the process is.
Because, whenever somebody asks me, I always say, choosing your life, time passion, it's almost like choosing a partner in life, right? You have to see yourself with that person for the rest of your life. It's somebody who, in good and in bad, you have to really be excited to be with. And I think it's the same with when you choose your passion, that if you can turn it into your work eventually, that's amazing. But choosing that correctly, because a lot of people choose a business or a business for the wrong reasons, to make money. For me, it was never about making money. It's just this passion that I had. So yeah, that's a good point.
One other thing I want to say to the whoever's watching, the Fragrance Foundation, when I first arrived, really had lots of retailers, lots of big corporations, lots of brands. We also knew that nurturing indies was really important. And I think it's a little frustrating, but I feel strongly about this. We only bring in a certain amount of indies every year because I really like, with my very small team, which is 5 other women and me, we really need to be able to spend the appropriate time and have conversations and help you connect. It's not about a cocktail party with networking. That's like pre-pandemic. And now it's really about how can, we help everyone. And that sort of frustration that you could have in forming any part of the foundation of getting a brand off the ground takes a lot of attention. So we also bring in brands, quite frankly, who are at a certain point in development. There are a lot of people out there in their kitchens stirring up ingredients as we speak, and we have to allocate and prioritize our time. So the best thing is that we've made all of these things available free on social media. So we're trying to talk to a lot of people, but we have to spend our time when people are at a certain point of development. So I met you at a very good time to join hands and help together.
Yes, and I think we may have spoken about this before, about mentorship and allyship, where it's something that's so important to discover new talent, right? When you give opportunities to brands that otherwise wouldn't be, kind of like what Labs is doing, and you know very well what the 2 girls are doing, which I think is amazing. And it's just giving a voice to so many people that would otherwise not really be heard. So
yeah, it's still frustrating, but I think we're getting somewhere. But I actually believe that the fragrance industry and the culture of America has changed during the pandemic. The importance of the sense of smell, the transportive feeling, and, if I may be frank, appreciating what's important in life and being with people you love, doing the things you want, and just having gratitude. That's another big theme that's part of my life. And I had a wonderful icon teach me so much, was Louis Schwartzberg, who, you've seen and met. Being grateful for what you have in this world right now has a lot to do with the sense of smell. So our industry happens to be in a very good position, and I think it will continue. It's not just, about those old marketing commercials where you meet someone at a bar or the morning after. It's now about, how does it make you feel about yourself, and how does it make you feel about the world? So it's a good point in time, there's so much going on, and every day there's some scary headline news, from the hurricane in Florida to the war, so I don't think it's frivolous. I think it's enhancing.
it is 100% enhancing. And what, in your opinion, you must be asked this all the time, but what are some of the olfactive categories that you think will be in trend in 2023? Is there one in particular where it could be just your personal opinion, but or one in particular that you see that people are just responding a lot to?
It's a great question. It doesn't mean that I'm right and the world's wrong, but I also have the privilege, since I've been in this position, we meet with every one of our members, which is either in a Zoom or in person. We experience their fragrances and they share with us confidentially what they have coming up in the next season or two. And of course, the fragrance houses, you know, are always forecasting cultural change. So with all of that information and the fact that there are now scientific ways of creating ingredients synthetically, from my, you know, viewpoint, I've seen a few things. Number one, I think sustainability going forward will be important. And we know a rose is a rose, but if you really smelled what a rose smells like, it wouldn't be the fragrance that you wind up getting. I can say this, in terms of a category, I'm positive. I'm validating what's true in other consumer worlds, but wellness is a very big category. You know, staying home, I light candles every night, and Steve picks the wine. It's a famous saying, and I pick the candle to match the dinner. I have something in mind for tonight. But I think wellness, and there have been several brands that have done a tremendous job in this, but the candle, the diffuser, the bath and body, that's big. Another category which hasn't really made it so much of a headline, but I'm like crazy about. I've met some people who have created ways to, excuse the expression, clean their homes, their dishes, their counters, their whatever, with scent in a way. Now, it was always there. Ivory Liquid or Palmolive always had a scent, and I'm not taking away from it. But there's sort of been an upgrade in what the sensorial experience is, because we all had to scrub down our homes like we didn't before. So there are categories. The other thing is ambient scent. There's pros and cons. Not everyone in the world wants their, you know, environment filled. Besides that, I think you're probably as aware, dealing with several fragrance houses now, that there are definitely differences of what's coming. There's more oud than I've ever seen. Not my personal favorite necessarily. I'm a crazy woman about, you know, citrus, aquatic, and so on. But there's a lot more spicy. And the last thing I think I should say, which I think most people know who are into fragrance, is more intense versions of lighter fragrances seem to be appealing, and it coincides also with the time of year as it gets cold out, even in Miami, where you might have to put on a sweater, sorry. There's something about something that's sort of warm and comfy versus the other.
I agree. Well, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know this, I think that you, oh, somebody's at the door.
Oh, well, let them in.
You know, Linda was one of the first ones to smell our artisanal collection, and also one of the first ones to smell our 3 new fragrances that we are launching in November, which we're super excited about.
Congrats. I want to pause on that without giving away the whole scoop. I think it's a wonderful progression, and to hold on to 3 fragrances like you did for a year. The world has become, particularly in the past before supply chain also, with launch. I do not advocate that whatsoever. Once a year is plenty. I also think you went on a journey that took you from the beach to other locations, and you had other dreams of scents. These are not in any way duplicative. These are different scents, and the packaging is extraordinary, but I think people should be very selective. It's, you know, retailers don't want to sell one solo fragrance. It's just not sort of a practical thing.
Yeah.
But 3 is good, artisanal is good, and you really need to pause and celebrate all of them. So I'm like totally psyched. I did get a sneak preview, and it was a very special moment. So I'm very privileged.
Well, you know, not a lot of people know this, because I think I'm just mentioning this for the first time. And of course, we took our time with this new collection that's coming out. It's these incredible collaborations with other world-renowned perfumers that Linda knows very well as well. And yeah, they're higher concentration, a lot stronger. And you know, you mentioned 3. I love the number 3.
Oh.
I don't know if you noticed, but I love the number 3, And I think especially for fragrance, what I did with the first collection, where it was kind of like one clean Agua de Santos, a floral, La Mar, and
Yeah.
then a woody Espiritu. So it's the same thing in this collection where you cover all the main olfactive categories. In essence, it's almost like a wardrobe collection, right? Where you have like your morning scent that's fresh and
Yeah.
clean, your day scent that's kind of like maybe a little floral and fun and adventurous, and then your woody scent that's a little more, mysterious or strong.
I think we should talk about the perfumer aspect of this because Bernardo you came to me, and this is actually something that has happened often. I meet creators such as yourself, and they start, and you had such a strong tie with Rodrigo, who is still extraordinary beyond the
Yes.
Mexico connection plus everything else he's talented at. And for those listening, if they're creating fragrances, it's almost like a I become a psychologist or a psychiatrist at times because I have to talk to creative people and say, it's okay to wander. It's not like you're being disloyal or in any way disrespectful. But if you have a vision and you want to create with others, it's not like, you have multiple husbands, wives, or lovers. This is a creative process. And just like fashion designers have different fashions at different times and different trends, you need to follow your creative heart and soul. So the funnest part of you allowing me to smell them in your home was after a while I could sort of, not always, but I can sometimes sort of guess who the perfumer is. And I celebrate the perfumers so much, as I know you do, because without them, we'd be nowhere in this fragrance community.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think that, we've talked about this before, but not enough credit has been given. Now more, and I think within the industry, fragrance industry, more, but now it should be, I think, more in the public. Public should know more about these world-renowned perfumers and the incredible talent that they have and all the beautiful creations that they have. It's almost like, I always say like an architect. Today, you want to build a house and you hire an architect that you're super proud of, and
Yeah.
he builds your house, he designs your house, and you hired him for a reason. So it's the same with perfumers, and I think a lot of people don't think about it that way. But that's definitely another conversation for another day.
But Bernardo, I do want to interrupt for one sec, like I always do with you.
Yeah.
It was when I joined the Fragrance Foundation, I really wanted to highlight and speak out and speak about the chef in the kitchen. And starting in 2018, which were the first awards that I was, in this role, we added the name of the perfumer to every award. Prior to that, it didn't exist, except for like one category. The only thing that's scaring me a little, when I say scare, because I'm always like thinking of what's next, there are so many other people, the evaluator, the operations people, the marketing people. But I think everyone would probably agree, you need to know the chef in the kitchen, or you need to know who Picasso is, or you don't understand the art.
Of course, and it's something where I think the industry has caught on to it because for many years, a lot of people don't know this, but for many years, it was almost like their name was hidden. And I know you've been a big advocate about this even before Fragrance Forward.
Yeah.
But I think now that you're doing Fragrance Forward, it's almost like that is important, but it's already on its way. In the fragrance industry, people understand that there's a priority that needs to be given to, a credit to everybody who's involved.
Yes. Yes.
But
yeah. It takes a village.
It takes a village. But now it's almost like getting that message to the consumer and kind of educating the consumer how there is this incredible person behind each fragrance, and why not wear something that you're a fan of, that creates something else that you like, that you can say, well, yeah, I love everything he does, because everybody has their own signature, like you said. Like
I used to call them the Wizard of Oz. It's very old-fashioned, but there was someone behind the curtain who never came out, so you never knew who it was. And also the first year, I think, yeah, when I was in this position, we honored Frederick Mahl, who I'm a huge fan of and friend of, because he brought the name of the perfumer right to the, you know, to the
To the
middle
bottom.
of his story and is on every bottle he does. So we can't thank them enough, but it's an army to get out even your 3 fragrances.
It's an army, and it's an arm and a leg. But it's all worth it. All worth it at the end. And you know, we're incredibly excited about our new launch in November, on November 1st. So more to come about these 3 new fragrances. And thank
So maybe we'll get to talk about it in New York together. Hint.
I maybe I think so.
I think so too. Even though I'm a big fan of spring and summer, and I get a little antsy because winter's coming. The fall season has a lot, you know, for us to look forward to, including these new 3 debuts. So here we go.
Well, thank you so much, Linda. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you. It's so easy to have a conversation with you, and again, you're doing so many important things and valuable things for so many of us, um, especially with hashtag Fragrance Forward. And
Bernardo, let's invite everyone to register. May I?
Yes.
At the Fragrance Foundation, you know, website today, we have open registration. It's totally free. Invite all your friends, family, anyone in your world to join us. We're going to have a magnificent conversation. I had to take over because you're one of the stars, but we're going to have a beautiful conversation about hashtag Fragrance Forward TFF with Bernardo.
What day?
With Sean Outler from Macy's Inc. and Nicole Monson, who is the head of this, well, very involved at the Estee Lauder companies. We also have a magnificent moderator, Arthel Neville. We are so honored and thankful. So the conversation will continue on October 20th.
20th.
Yep.
So make sure you put a reminder, everybody that's watching, October 20th. I think it's going to be a really interesting.
At high noon, 12 noon. So if you're on the West Coast, across the pond in Europe, in Latin America, where some of your favorite people are, please join us.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Linda. And I am sure I'm going to be seeing you very soon when we are in New York.
It'll be a pleasure.
Have a wonderful weekend. And please say hi to Charnay and everybody from the team.
I promise to. And thank you for having me. And you're one of the first Insta Lives I've done successfully. And I open it up to all our membership. Try to, if you're interested in having a conversation, follow Bernardo's lead.
Thank you, guys.
Sending you kisses.
Bye.
Bye.